In July 2019, off the coast of the West African country of Mauritania, an old Soviet-era fishing trawler called the Ivan Golubets suddenly caught fire. The Ukrainian crew scrambled to put out the flames. One young father of two, 39-year-old Oleg Nikulescu, rushed to the engine room to find the source of the fire. He was never seen again. The fire burned on for almost 2 days. Another Ukrainian crewed ship arrived to rescue the crew and tow the burning ship to safety. In the middle of the night, while it was being towed, the burning ship sank. The young father's body was never recovered. Back in Ukraine, his young widow Anna was astounded by the turn of events.
Ну как это так не тушить? Ну не может быть такого, что нету каких-то спасательных служб там, чтобы это все затушить, чтобы тело хотя бы найти, а не просто вот это все загорело. Значит, им надо было так его опустить под воду.
A search of fishing records shows that the ship was operated by a Canadian company, Aviel Business of Calgary, Alberta. The Aviel Business website shows photos of their ships operating off the coast of Mauritania, a long menu of fish they can provide, and an address on 32nd Avenue in Calgary. But all that is at that address is a small shopping center with a sex shop and cannabis store, and a mail forwarding service which many companies use as a business address. We decided to investigate the history of the burning ship, the Ivan Golubets. What was it doing off the coast of Africa? The Golubets is one of a fleet of associated fishing trawlers working in the area. Turns out the ships had a record of infractions against international shipping regulations. They had been convicted of fishing illegally. We checked electronic records that tracked the ship's movements in the weeks before the fire, and there we found very suspicious patterns, and several periods where they had illegally shut off their transponders, an unsafe practice that made them invisible to authorities for hours at a time. We consulted Dihia Belhabib of Vancouver, an internationally renowned authority on fishing practices, to interpret the data.
They're shutting down their satellite signal, their AIS, to hide something shady. They were very close, some of them even inside the actual zone where they were not supposed to be, which is completely illegal.
We then discovered an even more suspicious detail. Aviel Business of Canada had taken out a $15 million insurance policy on the ship with a Russian insurance company that went into effect only 6 hours before it mysteriously caught fire. The ship was actually worth much less than that.
Immediately when you said that the insurance policy was effective or was effective the same day that the vessel has sunk, I immediately thought of fraud.
A key element of the story comes from the secret financial documents leaked from FinCEN, the office of the U.S. Treasury Department that tracks suspect financial transactions around the world. Many suspicious activity reports traced millions of dollars being paid to the Canadian company Aviel of Calgary, Alberta, that moved from a bank in Geneva, Switzerland, through various American and foreign banks in the U.S., before ending up at the Spare Bank in Moscow, Russia. It looked like the true owners of Aviel of Calgary were likely Russians. The bank reports are not necessarily evidence of criminal conduct, and banks are not required to shut down accounts involved in suspected money laundering. In these documents, we also found very similar multi-million-dollar transactions, often on the same day using the same banks, to another Canadian shell company called Oceanic Fisheries of St. John, New Brunswick.
It tells me that the owner of both companies, these vessels, is basically the same person, or are basically the same and unique person. So it's somebody who is in Russia, probably. It is someone who has maybe various bank accounts, but it is definitely the same person.
Once again, our team found no trace of actual company operations in New Brunswick, just a corporate services and mail forwarding office.
Honestly, we really don't know much about the actual companies or what they do or anything like that.
This Russian website extols the virtues of setting up shell companies in New Brunswick. No Canadian director required. No ownership information disclosed. Best of all, non-problematic export to Russia or Ukraine. It looks like a method of evading sanctions against Russia. New Brunswick opposition MLA Kevin Arsenault thinks his province has to change its rules to help stop international money laundering.
If a Russian laundromat is using our public registry, it shouldn't be tolerated at all. This is our reputation. This is our hard work, our environment.
This is the story of Toronto and Canada.
For years, NDP MP Charlie Angus has been pressing Canadian governments to tighten up regulations to stop international money laundering, to no avail.
Canada, on one level we see ourselves as the world's Boy Scouts and we're so super clean. But if you're a white-collar criminal and wanting to hide money, Canada is the place to go. We don't seem to think it's a problem, which makes us an easy mark, which makes it possible for international criminal money to come here and get cleaned.
59 Ukrainian crew members of the Ivan Golubets were saved in the fire and sinking. Anna Nikolescu's husband Oleg was the only victim, and she doesn't know where to turn for fair compensation.
Все нормально было. Он постоянно звонил, говорил, что там все легко, все хорошо, проблем у него никаких не было. Веселый, жизнерадостный человек был. И в итоге все спаслись, а его нету.
For years, both Liberal and Conservative governments in Ottawa and the provinces have pledged to crack down on money laundering. So far, there is little in the way of action. Terence McKenna, CBC News, Toronto.